Well, the Olympics soon to kick off in London. Traditionally, the Olympic Games are a platform where the world's superpowers compete for the gold. Decades ago, it was the U.S. versus the Soviet Union. But today, the U.S. is up against another world power that has proven to be a force to be reckoned with. China showed up the U.S. and the rest of the world when they dominated the medal count in the last games back in Beijing. And this time around, it looks like they're gearing up once again to prove they are a superpower to stay. But will that be the case? We'll discuss now with someone that has seen it all from the inside, Jack Mccallum, Dream. He is the author of the book you see there, Dream Team. Jack, welcome. So it looks like China is proving their superpower prowess on the Olympic stage now.
Yeah, no question about it. It came suddenly, and when it came, as was the case with most about China, it came with a force. And I think really here they're even talking more about, obviously Great Britain has a strong team, they're hosting the game. They're even sort of talking more about, hey, let's try to beat Australia and let's try to beat the United States. And I think there is kind of a concession that China could win it. I think the United States could give them a run for their money, though, overall.
All right. Well, it looks like it'll definitely at least be neck and neck. It was once the U.S. versus the Soviet Union. Now it appears that the rivalry is between the U.S. and China. Is that what it appears to be?
Probably, but I don't think there's just something about the sporting culture that doesn't allow that as much. We had such a long historical buildup to the relationship with the Soviet Union, and it's sort of so represented two paradigms, East versus West and communism versus capitalism and all this kind of thing. I just don't, it doesn't feel the same with China because we're still trying to figure out culturally and historically exactly what we mean to each other, so it's almost like, yeah, the United States wants to beat China. They want to have the most medals, but it doesn't feel like that kind of mano-a-mano thing that it was with the Soviet Union for so many years.
I guess we'll see how it plays out. It seems like maybe the tension is there, maybe it's building. But Jack, oftentimes the Olympics often serve as a platform for countries to show off their pride and nationalism. So when countries take the gold, it's really more than just about the sport. Do you agree there?
Sure. I mean, everybody, from the beginning when the modern games started in 1896, I mean, supposedly politics was going to be out of it. It never, in fact, was. I mean, as far back as those first modern games in 1896, there were, skullduggery and cheating and everything else in the name of getting your nation to be first. So I don't think the way we do it now is probably any worse than they did it. We're doing it 100 years ago. It's just that there's kind of so much more coverage about it. But it's always, you're going to see the opening ceremonies tomorrow night. I mean, there's going to be some political leaders weren't allowed to come, and others are going to be in the box with David Cameron. So, of course, it's a political battle as much as it is anything else.
Now, I do want to talk a little bit about your book there, The Dream Team. And, it takes a close look at this legendary basketball team back in 1992. They were the pride and glory over there in Barcelona. But since then, I mean, it just hasn't really been the same. I mean, having really seen this all from the inside, how does it feel for you to kind of see this gradual, I guess, decline?
Well, I think those of us who covered the team in '92 were close to it, and those that were around the team and the team itself, you sort of knew that this was a singular phenomenon. You kind of knew that, there was this perfect storm of it was the first time it happened. Europe was kind of ready to accept a new game. These guys were the biggest stars in sport, not just basketball. Those factors couldn't be replicated again. And I think the United States fan, the average fan, doesn't understand how much more difficult it is for these guys in 2012 to win the medal. I mean, if they don't beat Spain for the gold medal, they're going to be considered a massive disappointment. However, the team that they're playing in Spain this time, they're made up of 5 NBA players. I mean, they may not be as good as our team, Kobe Bryant, you know, LeBron James, Kevin Durant, but they're a much, much, much better team than the one the Dream Team played 20 years ago. And I'm saying that having just, you know, written a book on the Dream Team.
So do you think the U.S. will ever have a dream team in the full sense of that word again?
No, I just don't think that it can happen that way. In fact, what's going on, there's a movement now in the United States to kind of change the paradigm a little bit, that after this Olympics, that we're going to go back to sending, you know, sort of an under 23 team, and that we're going to try to create a World Cup of basketball, sort of like soccer. So the Olympics would no longer be kind of the pinnacle of our international basketball representation. That hasn't been fully worked out yet. But I think in a way people are looking at 2012 as the real kind of end of this professional basketball era that started with the Dream Team in '92.
The end of an era. You know, Jack, we are living in this more globalized world, and we're now seeing this increase in foreign players. We did a story not too long ago about a lot of our Olympians. Many of them were not born and raised here, but kind of we took them on as our own because of their athletic capabilities. I mean, is that surprising to you to see that trend?
Well, it started back, no, because I've been looking at it for so long. I mean, I think people don't understand how long, for example, our colleges have been populated, the top Division I colleges, particularly in running events and things like that. You know, we have always been one. I mean, I suppose the anti-immigration person would say, isn't this terrible? The patriot, in my opinion, would say, we've always been a country of immigrants. That's what we've done. We've given opportunity to people. And inevitably in sports, when we, like anything else, when we start to give opportunities to people from outside of our borders, people who might be more hungry to get to the top, inevitably that's going to squeeze out some of, you know, quote, the natives. Certainly that's been happening for a long time in running sports around here. A lot of our Olympic runners are probably people that came to college from other nations. Our basketball players, by and large, the ones on the team, are American-born. That's still a sport that at the top level we dominate. But in a lot of other sports, it's been happening for a long time. And, you know, I, for one, really don't see any problem with it.
All right. Very interesting and timely with the games just about to kick off. Jack, thank you so much for coming on the show. That was Jack Mccallum, author of The Dream Team.